Good evening, everybody. I'm very, very pleased today that Councillor Cathy Coe has agreed to do a small reading and reflection before our annual general meeting.
Heavenly Father, we're entrusted with looking after our area of Lichfield District, and as such we ask for your wisdom and guidance in all of our decisions this evening and always. As we're bathed in sunshine and everything feels positive outside, we pray for Lichfield District to be a positive, vibrant, healthy and happy district to live and work in. Today, let us be an area that celebrates its residents and its visitors. Let us enjoy the wonderful community, the arts and the cultural events, and be welcoming to others who wish to join us for them. Please be with all of the villages and with Burntwood as well as the city. May we serve you with integrity and with warmth towards others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much indeed. We can formally start the meeting. So a formal welcome then, and we'll move to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Anketel, Ray and M. Wilcox.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. And before we hear of any particular declarations of interest, I'm going to read the dispensation for an item later in the agenda. Further to applications received, the monitoring officer has granted a dispensation under section 33A of the Localism Act 2011 to allow members to take part in debates and to vote on any matter relating to the adoption of a scheme for members' allowances. And this dispensation is on the following grounds: that without the dispensation, the number of persons prohibited from participating in the business would be so great a proportion of the decision-making body as to impede the transaction of the business. And that means because all of us have an interest in it, and that it is in the interest of persons living in the authorities area for this dispensation to be granted. And the dispensation will remain in force until the vesting day of any new authority or until the next district council election, whichever is earliest, unless revoked or amended sooner. And that last point is actually very relevant at the moment, isn't it? But so that we have a general dispensation for later on. Are there any particular declarations of interest in other items on the agenda? No, thank you. Then agenda item 3 is to receive the returning officer's certificate of election of the district councillor, new district councillor, and report of declaration of acceptance of office. So call on the deputy returning officer or returning officer.
Thank you, Chair. So I, Simon Fletcher, returning officer, hereby certify that Councillor Matthew Wallens was duly elected to the District Ward of Kerborough and has signed the Declaration of Acceptance of Office. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I would welcome on behalf of the Council, Councillor Wallens to Lichfield District Council. I'm sure we'll be very interested to have his contribution to the Council. And I'm told that you'd like to say a few words of thanks to your electors.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say a massive thank you to the community and the residents of Kerborough for supporting me for this whole election campaign. And to my best of abilities, I wish to serve the community well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to then election of agenda item 4, election of the Chair of Council for the ensuing year. And can I ask for nominations? Councillor Trent.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Andrew Rushton to be Chair of LDC. As colleagues know, Andrew has been Vice Chair since July last year, and I hope colleagues across the chamber will agree he's done a very good job in that role. Andrew's thrown himself into the role of Vice Chair with his usual energy, attending school debate competitions, fundraising events, church events and ladies at the National Memorial Arboretum. He has conducted himself extremely well in the vice chair role. I've no doubt he would do the same as chair of LDC. As many know, Andrew grew up in Whittington, in the ward he now represents. He's passionate about helping make this district the best it can be. He's articulate and knowledgeable. Colleagues may know he studied history and politics at university. He's also hardworking. As well as being vice chair of council, he's been on the planning committee the last 2 years. Outside of politics, he's worked for St Giles Hospice in Whittington and now works for the King's Trust charity, which focuses on helping young adults build skills for employment or starting their own businesses. Andrew is also very collaborative as a ward councillor. He works alongside Conservative and Labour councillors in Whittington and Streathey, and that spirit of collaboration would serve him very well as chair. Finally, I believe it has been extremely positive and refreshing to have our youngest district councillor as the vice chair of this council. And likewise, it would send a great signal to have a younger person serving as the chair of LDC, to be in such a senior position. It would send a message that this council is relevant to and working hard for all age groups and all demographics across our district. It would be good for the image and the reputation of this council. I believe Andrew would also be a role model as chair and encourage other young people across our district to put themselves forward to be councillors. I know that diversity and representation are matters very close to Andrew's heart. As we know, too often in public life, senior roles are filled with those who are male, pale and stale. I'm 2.5 of those myself. Well, Andrew is certainly not stale. He would bring youthful energy and dedication to the role of chair. And as he would also bring the qualities to be an excellent chair of this council. So it gives me great pleasure to propose him as chair of LDC.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Woodward.
Thanks, Chair. And in that very spirit of collaboration that Councillor Trent has just referred to, I would like to second the nomination of Councillor Rushton as Chair of Council for the ensuing year. We've heard some of his background from Councillor Trent. I certainly know from you, Chair, that Councillor Rushton's been an excellent Vice Chair during this year and has certainly reduced the age profile of the chairs in photographs around this council chamber, which I think has been a very good thing. He has brought energy, enthusiasm, but also diligence and graciousness to the role. So I have great pleasure in seconding the proposal. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Whitehead.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to, sorry, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Keith Vernon, please, for Chair.
Okay.
So a few words, please, okay. Keith has been on District Council for 2 years and has proven himself during that time to be a very able councillor, as lots of people in this chamber are, of course. Keith's previous background before he got into local politics was as a dentist, and therefore he's very used to dealing with large numbers of people, people in difficult circumstances. And I think that's shown through in the way that he communicates with not just councillors, but other people at different committees that we've been on as well. Keith has served on Mavison Parish Council and has been chair also of that particular council. And also I'd like to say that he does a lot of charity work behind the scenes that a lot of us don't know about, almost on a weekly basis out there trying to raise funds for various local groups. And in addition to that, he supports certain care homes with entertainment and that sort of thing to try and make the life of residents a lot better. So I think he does give a lot to the community. He has proven that in the past. And I think all of those skills and the knowledge that he's gained will give him an excellent opportunity to do a really good job for us as chair. I also think that with his wife being a governor of a school, then they almost will work together because Keith has previously supported her in her role, and I'm sure that there'll be reciprocation there, that they can work together for the best good of the community. So on that basis, I'd like to please nominate Keith Vernon.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that proposed? Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chair. It gives me enormous pleasure to second the nomination of Keith. I've known him for over 2 years, actually, before he became a district councillor, and he's always struck me as someone who is entirely devoted to the community. Obviously, the parish council was one of the committees upon which he served, but that public spirit shines through at all times. And I've served with him on audit committee and on planning committee. And I've always been struck by how reasonable and how reasoned he is in coming to his decisions. And I think his judgment is quite impeccable. And that is borne out, not least by the fact that he's a keen Manchester United supporter. But seriously,
Not this year.
Keith has a delightful sense of humour. He's extremely diplomatic, gets on with people enormously well. And so for that reason, I think he would be an ideal candidate for the chairman, or sorry, the chair, I do beg your pardon. And for that reason, I'm more than happy to second that nomination. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now proceed to a vote one by one. That's right, yeah. Alphabetical order. Oh yeah, no, I can do that. Yeah. So first of all, then we need to have all those in favour of Councillor Andrew Rushton as chair for this coming year. It's me as well. All those, thank you. We've got all those in favour of Councillor Vernon. Okay, right. Right, then I can announce that Councillor Vernon is the chair of Lichfield District Council for 2025 to 2026. So there's some.
Chair, point of information, can we have the votes, please?
It was 23 to 21. Yes. So we do some sort of choreography now, I think. Yeah, I come and sit here. So I think now you take the chair.
Right.
Chair, there's the declaration of office. So start by reading it.
I, Keith Michael Vernon, having been elected to the office of Chair of the Lichfield District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to be guided by the Lichfield District Council Members' Code of Conduct in the performance of my functions in that office.
Thanks.
Yeah. First, I would like to thank the councillors for their support. In fact, for me, it's a huge honour. And I can say that I and my consort, Jill, who you probably a lot of you know, will continue to represent the council with dignity and propriety. What I would like to do first of all is to thank the outgoing chair, Councillor Anne Hughes, for everything that she has done. So if I start again, I'll say I should like to thank Councillor Anne Hughes for admirably carrying out her duties, representing the council over the past 18 months, and for ensuring our council meetings were decorous and always progressed without any hitches. I hope I can emulate everything she has done over the past 18 months. So thank you, Anne, for everything you've done over the past few months.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if there are any other councillors would like to express their thanks and good wishes to Councillor Hughes.
Chair, I wasn't expecting that, but I'd certainly like to thank Anne for stepping into the role in quite difficult circumstances and quite unusual circumstances. She has fulfilled the role in a very sort of open, transparent, collegiate and dignified way, and I think that's brought great respect on this council chamber, but for the district as well. So thank you, Anne. You'll have a little bit more time to spend on other issues and certainly on committees now if the proposals go through later on, but I'm very grateful for all the work that she's done. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wouldn't like this occasion to pass without just saying a huge thank you to Anne, because I think we've all enjoyed the way that you've conducted these meetings. There's always been a rich vein of humour running through, and you've always kept order, and we've always shown you, I think, great respect, because you've held the office in very high esteem, and I think that shows. You've been a credit to this council, Anne, and I think your chairmanship or chairing skills were slightly idiosyncratic at times, but all the better for it. And I think you've brought a real freshness to this council, and for that you should be congratulated. And I'd like to offer my personal thanks to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to entirely echo what both Councillor Woodward and Councillor Marshall have said. Councillor Hughes, I've got a friend who's actually unfortunately passed away last week, who was an avowed communist. Other than him, I don't think I've met anyone else that's got more different politics from me. However, I think what is fantastic is this district is made up of so many different people who've got so many different life experiences and views in life, and you've brought this chamber to life, I think, with your sense of humour, your sense of justice, your fairness, and you've done a tremendous justice to this council wherever you've gone. And thank you so much for your service. I know that you'll be a chair that will be remembered very fondly in years to come.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to embarrass you too much further, Councillor Hughes, but just to echo what's been said and to put on record our sincere thanks from this part of the chamber for an excellent year in the chair. And I've been struck also with how fair you've been and how dignified, and how you've chaired with such good humour too, which has just been excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Everyone, can I firstly welcome you to your seat and I think be the first to do so. Councillor Hughes obviously became this council's chair under slightly unexpected circumstances, but I have got to say that she stepped into the role with great aplomb and has been a truly impressive servant of this district for the 18 months that she has occupied that role. Throughout it, I would suggest that Councillor Hughes has been both very scrupulously fair, but also very inclusive to members across the entire chamber. And I remember with particular fondness being, I think, the first member from the floor who was invited to open a meeting with a few observations and reflections. And I've heard other members, including Councillor Coe this evening, open us up with similarly, how can I put this? With very careful reflections that have guided this council in the thought that it's entirely appropriate that we should all have at the opening of a meeting. I may not, Councillor Hughes, have agreed with everything that you've said, and I'm sure that you haven't agreed with everything that I have. As we've said, our politics are very different, but I look forward to seeing you bring that incisive intelligence that you balance very well with compassion to the wider council. And I look forward to seeing you serve on committees with the enormous diligence that you have shown in the chair. Thank you.
No, I think I'm allowed at some stage.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, just, I think we've heard it.
Councillor Hughes would like to respond.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Vernon. I should congratulate you on taking my chain. It's been an enormous privilege to serve as the chair of District Council for the last 18 months. I've written down, thank you for trusting me with the position. I should say thank you, some of you, for voting for me and the rest for putting up with me. Chairing the actual meetings has sometimes been a challenge, but that's been a real pleasure, at least surviving each one has. And I will miss sitting across opposite from Councillor Norman with his always, always useful contributions and sitting next to Councillor Rushton. I welcome a return to the back benches where I at least propose to ask obscure and elaborately phrased questions to my favourite cabinet members. It's been a great pleasure, and I probably could have done more, but it's been a great pleasure to know more about the wider district and the many charitable and community activities that residents put so much into. And it's been very worthwhile too, representing Lichfield District Council at Staffordshire wide events, charitable chain gang activities that I'm afraid one councillor has a video of that I'm sure he's never going to show, of certain event at Staffordshire County buildings. But I'm particularly welcomed attendance at the many poignant anniversaries and acts of remembrance at D-Day and VE Day, the Anzac memorials and the Anglo-German events on Cannock Chase. I have to say I've been an abject failure at raising money for a very valuable charity, MHA Community, whose motto, live later, live well, is obviously very relevant to me. And I might have just about reached 4 figures by the end of the week, but hope to maintain a longer relationship. And I know Councillor Vernon helps them out as well for the rest of my, for the future. I'd like to thank the officers and drivers, particularly Leslie Bennett, Mark Hooper, Will Stevenson, Christine Lewis, for their advice and support. And now, depending on what happens in item 12 of the agenda, I'm looking forward to returning to the Planning Committee. Thank you.
We move on now to item number 5, minutes of the last meeting. Can I take the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of April 2025 as a correct record. Councillor Ball. I see no further raised hands. Oh, Councillor Pullen.
A point of order first, if I may, Chair, and then I'll move on to the proposed amendment to the minutes the Councillor Ball's made. There is no such thing as a point of information, and I think we need to nip it in the bud. That there's a point of personal explanation and a point of order if a councillor thinks that we're not in accordance with the Constitution. There is no such thing as a point of information. It seems to have crept into our vernacular as a council. I think it's really important that we stick to the Constitution, which is to guide our the work that we do. I've phrased that as a point of order rather than a point of information. Councillor Ball, the proposed amendment that you've shared with us this evening. I've got a couple of issues with the with what's been presented to us this evening. I think the minutes of a council meeting need to be accurate and need to be proportionate. If we were to record verbatim what every single councillor said, we would end up with a huge file of so many pages of length that it would be impossible to work its way through. Having said that, it is also critically important that where decisions are made, or particularly where requests are made of the leader or any other cabinet member, that I think those are accurately recorded in the minutes so that we can follow up on those. So I'm entirely with Councillor Ball on that. But just working through the proposed amendments that have been put forward this evening, Chair, the very first amendment, I would perhaps suggest that it's not proportionate in terms of its length. It would make wonderful material for an election leaflet, but I don't think it belongs in council minutes. I would suggest that we replace that with wording to the effect of, and Councillor Ball, I'm happy to share a copy of this with you. If we were to say, Councillor Ball welcomed the Cabinet's decision to proceed with property acquisitions to address urgent housing needs. He queried whether the two properties listed were the same, and the leader undertook to confirm. I think that's an accurate representation of what was said on the evening, Chair, and would be happy to accept that as an amendment. On the second paragraph, Councillor Ball, in his amended or in his proposal, says that Councillor Ball then asked the leader if he would, as the councillor representing the council as shareholder on LWM, to raise this issue at a board meeting, and the leader agreed to do this. Chair, that's simply not accurate. As evidenced on the YouTube recording, Councillor Ball asked me to instruct LWM. I replied that I could not do any such thing. I am incapable as leader of the council of instructing LWMTS to do anything, but that I would be happy to ask our shareholder representative to raise it at a board meeting. And that is already contained within the minutes of the meeting at 73, and therefore I don't think that needs any further amendment. At point 3, it was Steve Norman, Councillor Norman, apologies. Happy to accept that amendment. It was Councillor Norman, not Councillor Ball. And finally, again, and this is really the proportionality issue, which is about accurately reflecting what a councillor has said without going on too much. But it is an accurate minute, but I think it needs to be perhaps slightly more brief. So if we were to summarise that as Councillor Ball welcomed progress on the mini nature reserves, noting their benefit to biodiversity. He asked for consideration of additional sites in the north of Kerborough ward and another location as a habitat haven. He had visited both sites with officers. The leader agreed to look into this. I think that would be short. It would follow the same phrasing that other minutes are captured in, without sort of elucidating at length Councillor Ball's views on that matter. Councillor Ball, could I share a copy of that with you just to see if you're happy with those proposed amendments? And Councillor Ball, I'm absolutely not saying that the minutes shouldn't reflect those points. I think they should reflect them, particularly where you've made a request. but I do think they need to be short and they should follow a similar format to other minutes and not go on at length to try and explain all the ins and outs of what a councillor has said. So, Chair, I've got a copy of those if anyone would like to see those, but I'd propose that we accept your amendment, but amended along the lines of what I've just shared.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. I thank Councillor Pullen for his suggestions. I'm happy to accept those proposed changes, but disappointed that he didn't identify those to me before the meeting, because I did copy them in all the emails I sent requesting those changes. Thank you.
Councillor Woodward.
Yes, Chair. As no one's yet seconded any amendment to the minutes, I'll second the proposal, the amendment as amended by Councillor Pullen. But I do think it's important, and we should make a real point about this. In several of those minutes, he said the leader agreed to do this. This was agreed. You know, the member will be contacted. I think it's really important that those are tracked as some sort of action plan, so that not just the member who's raised the question gets a response, but the whole council gets a response, so that we don't go back over debates that have already been had. But happy to second those amendments. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Yeah, so just on that second paragraph where I asked a question regarding the social value policy statement. I asked whether it applied to LWMTS, and the leader responded that he could ask them to look at it. Councillor Ball followed that up with a affirmation that he would, and the minutes don't reflect his answer that he would. There is, I realise it's semantics, the difference between could and would, but it is an agreement to do something as an opposed to agreement that he could possibly do something. And I'd like the minutes to reflect that he did agree to do something. Thank you.
As there are no more raised hands, is everybody happy to take the minutes as approved? As amended? Right. Yes. Approved. We now move on to item 5.6. Election of Vice Chair of the Council for the ensuing year. Do I have any nominations for the appointment of Vice Chair? Councillor Cox.
If I may continue. Tom and I joined this council back in May 2003 when we were elected along with former councillor Martin Titley. Back in there we forged a great friendship which resulted in good teamwork and ultimately meant only the best for the residents of Armitage with Handsacre Ward. Since 2015, we now represent residents across 2 parishes because of the boundary changes and a reduction of the number of district councillors. Kings Bromley was placed in the ward of Armitage with Handsacre. So why Tom? It's simple. He has demonstrated professionalism and understanding of local government with 22 years of experience. In that time, Tom has been Vice Chair and Chairman of the then Environment and Development ONS Committee. He also chaired the Housing and Health ONS Committee, and most recently, Vice Chair of the Audit Committee. However, Tom will be remembered for his unwavering knowledge of the planning system, and from being Vice Chair of the Planning to become the Chairman at Planning, which he chaired with honesty, integrity, and most importantly, fairness. Tom has been, and still no doubt, has demonstrated courage to speak on issues that matter to him. Having an opinion on net zero, for example, and the perils that it presents to our residents with higher cost of fuel consumption, which has only added to the issues of the cost of living crisis. Tom has listened to many residents on this subject and has found many like-minded people in doing so. Of course, this is an opinion which is not universally shared, even within this chamber. But as a recent event has shown us, perhaps Tom is more in touch with the residents from across the district than he has been credited for. Or should I say, criticised and even mocked. Even the former Prime Minister Blair is now talking down net zero as being impossible by 2050.
Just both the nomination of chair, a vice chair of the council, not a political diatribe, surely.
May I continue? So, in summary, Tom has demonstrated that he is quite capable of carrying out the duties of vice chair of council with, to reiterate the words, honesty, integrity and fairness. I am delighted, indeed honoured, to propose my friend, Councillor Tom Marshall, as Vice Chairman of Chair of Lichfield District Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and if I may welcome you to your new post. I'm delighted to second Councillor Marshall for the role of Vice Chair. He has served this council for 22 years, as we've just heard. Throughout that time, it is clear to see how principled and intelligent he is, both in his thoughts and in his presentation. I have served alongside him on planning for the last 6 years, and he's always been prepared, professional and polite. Councillor Marshall has a number of firmly held views, and no one could describe him as taciturn in his stance. As an eloquent orator, he has been found to be outstanding in a number of local fields, and I personally have seen him at the County Show, the Camwell Show and at Kings Bromley. I did wonder where I would find the right words to support Councillor Marshall's nomination, so I turned to a dictionary and thesaurus. Tonight's meeting may turn out to be fortuitously timed. His dialectical approach to issues, his ability to analyse and elucidate debates affords him the perfect qualities to marshal this chamber through proceedings when required.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you.
Now, I apologise, I think you have your hand up.
Thank you very
much. But I haven't noticed, so I apologise.
Thank you, Chair, and I accept your apologies, but I hope you cast your gaze on this side of the chamber a little bit more regularly than we've seen so far. I'm conscious of the fact that there's a great phrase which isn't used very much now, which is forlorn hope. And when I was studying English at university as an undergraduate, I remember that this particular phrase, forlorn hope, came from an Afrikaans phrase, which was verloren hoop, which meant lost troop. I realised tonight that it's a matter of numbers and numbers of votes. So this may well be a verloren hoop or a forlorn hope, but I hope those people who have been nominated, and particularly those who've not been successful, realise that this isn't a judgment against their character, it's a political judgment, and this is a political organisation. I would therefore like to nominate Councillor Sharon Taylor as Vice Chair of Lichfield District Council. She's lived her whole life here in Lichfield District. She grew up here, she's raised a family here, and she knows her whole district very well. In 2023, she put herself forward as a candidate and was elected to represent Boney Hay and Central Ward at both Burnford Town Council and Lichfield District Council. In July 2023, not long after her election, following unanimous support for a motion on food poverty, she put herself forward as the food justice champion for this council and still holds that brief. Her background is in marketing and PR, and she's worked with house builders, the NHS and community groups, and she's also now a trustee of the Garrick. As everyone here knows, she's faced significant health challenges over the past 12 months, but she's faced them head on and is now bouncing back. When I was writing some notes about this nomination, I realised that the last Boney Hay councillor who was part of the civic leadership team as chair, vice chair, in fact, it was probably the last Burntwood councillor in a chair or vice chair role, was our dear late friend, Councillor John Walker, MBE. He served with great dignity and great fortitude in spite of his disabilities, and I'm sure Sharon would do exactly the same. I also think that John Walker will be looking down and wishing her all the very best if she succeeds in securing the vote tonight. Thanks, Chair.
Can I ask in the order in which they were? Well, we'll do it the opposite way around then. Can I ask first then for all those in favour of Councillor, and forgive me, names are my biggest problem. Councillor Harvey Coggins, can I ask? Councillor. Sorry. Councillor Taylor, sorry. I was looking at the wrong person, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm going to have to refer to this chart of names for a few meetings. Councillor Taylor, my apologies. All those in favour of Councillor Taylor. I ask now all those in favour of Councillor Tom Marshall. Oh, Tom Marshall. So the vote is for Councillor Tom Marshall. And he's duly elected as Vice Chair of Lichfield District Council. And the votes, for anybody wondering, 23 for Councillor Marshall and 21 for Sharon Taylor. So do I? Oh.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. You got your, you can read the declaration of this. What's on the sheet? Okay. This sheet here, is it? So. Top of the page. Thank you very much. I, Councillor Tom Marshall, having been elected to the office of Vice Chair of the Lichfield District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to be guided by the Lichfield District Council Members' Code of Conduct in the performance of my functions in that office. Yes, of course. Thank you. So first of all, I'm going to sit down, I think. I'm nearer the microphone, probably. May I first of all say a very big thank you to the outgoing Vice Chairman, Andrew Rushton, who I think has fulfilled this role extremely well. And as was mentioned by Councillor Woodward, what's happened tonight is not a reflection on his performance or his suitability for the post. It is simply a political manoeuvre, which is exactly what happened 12 months ago. So thank you very much there to Councillor Andrew Rushton. May I also say a very big thank you to my proposer and who nominated me, Councillor Richard Cox. As he alluded, we have been colleagues on the District Council and Parish Council over the years as well. And it's been a pleasure to work with Richard. He's been extremely supportive, not just of me and other councillors, but also he's been a great servant to the village of Armitage with Hansacre. And it was extremely kind of him to say such kind words. It almost felt like a eulogy, but in the nicest possible way. I feel as though that was almost a eulogy. Probably, let's hope, about 30 years prematurely. I've always been an optimist at heart. I'd also like to thank my seconder, Councillor Jamie Checkland, with whom I've worked for several years actually on planning, and he's always been a very, very august and very, very dependable Vice Chairman of Planning. Thank you to all the support I've had this evening from members. I know it was a very close run thing, but I'm extremely grateful that you were able to support me into this role, which I believe is a very important position and one which I will give all of my energy and dedication to over the ensuing year. I think that's probably about it. There's nothing more to say, although it did make me smile when Councillor Checkland did come in armed with a thesaurus and dictionary. Hopefully, Jamie, you've not needed to use that this evening. Thank you very much all. Thank you.
Councillor Rushton.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to have the opportunity to say a few words myself, and can I congratulate you and Councillor Marshall for the Vice Chair position. I'm sure you'll do very well, and I wish you all the best. Council, this speech is not the one I wanted to deliver tonight. yet it's still one filled with pride and joy. It's been an honour to have the chance to be Vice Chair for the past 9 months. To those who voted for me back in July, and also to those who didn't, but have since been very supportive, I really do appreciate it. Having the chance to attend events on the behalf of the council has been a privilege, as well as meeting other civic heads from around the county and nationwide last week. I've been warmly touched by them complimenting the council for taking a chance on a young councillor. When I was elected to this council 2 years ago, when we all were, we made a pledge and promise to the residents of this district to the best of our ability and work in their best interests. However, I feel an extra responsibility to work hard for our younger generations who might not have the opportunity due to full-time work commitments to give time to be a councillor. I would like to thank all the councillors tonight who wanted to give a chance to a young councillor again to have the role of chair. But I do understand that this is a game of politics, and I do respect the fact that those who didn't vote for me still hold me in high regard, and I do appreciate that, so thank you. Regardless, I hope I have represented the young folk of Lichfield well, and I will continue to do my best, the best of my ability, to push for their best interests. And now that I have a position to talk in council again, I'm sure that the Cabinet will look forward to that. Finally, I'd like to pass on my thanks to two incredible women. The first has already been thanked today, but that is Councillor Hughes, who can't seem to escape me being by her side. Despite our political disagreements and differences, different parties, you've been extremely courteous to me and invited me to several events, and I really appreciate the friendship that we've made over the last 9 months. And the second goes to Leslie, our wonderful civic officer, who's been extremely patient with me for the past 9 months and very supportive. Everything we do as a civic office is done behind closed doors, and I appreciate the hard work that you do. Once again, I want to thank this council for the opportunity to let me serve as Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rushton. The next item is item 7, Chair's announcements. Well, you can probably appreciate, as the new kid on the block, I don't have that many announcements. Obviously, standing as chair, I had to be prepared. And the first thing that I have to announce is my chaplain for the forthcoming year. I have discussed an idea with Councillor Pullen and with Mr. Hooper, and what I would like to do will be announced at the next meeting. So that chaplain is in abeyance. The civic service will be organised in the near future, and I must say I'm really looking forward to that. So that will be announced in the future, and my charity, which I shall have to give some thought to, will also be announced at the next meeting. So we now move to item 8, which are the minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I call on Councillor Norman?
Thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the meeting held on the 2nd of April 2025 be received.
Can I have somebody to second those minutes, please?
Yes, Chair, second the minute.
Councillor, please. Yeah, I'm just looking.
Yes, Chair, I second the minute.
I want to call you Leona. Lung, Councillor Lung. Thank you.
Can I go through the minutes, Chair?
Take the minutes.
First, present, can also take this opportunity to welcome the new members of the committee. and point out there is training available on the LGA website free, and that we have the overview and scrutiny toolkit, which I recommend all members, old and new on the committee, to study, in fact, to do their best for the overview and scrutiny committee in the future. 50 is apologies for absence. 51 declaration of interest. 52 minutes of the previous meeting. 52 health matters. 54 notes from task groups. 55 active Lichfield, quite a lengthy piece there. 56, the annual review of overview and scrutiny function at the council. And just to go on to the bullet point, their first bullet point, members requested if a link to the new public scrutiny suggestion page could be put on the ONS committee webpage. And although it sometimes pops up anyway.
Could I just interject, Councillor Norman? We have a question.
Well, I haven't got to the end of this bit yet. And just to point out that it has been done. I will now sit down for the question.
Councillor Ball.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In relation to item 56, which Councillor Norman has just been talking about, I'd like to ask him to what he thinks he could do as chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in consultation with the leader of the controlling group to make sure that the members, particularly of the controlling group, attend all Overview Scrutiny Committee meetings and play a full part in those meetings.
Councillor Norman.
Well, as Councillor Ball knows, that we have pre-meetings at 5:30 at least over the Scrutiny Committee, and always try to encourage members to take part in that. Also encourage members by actually giving them information in between meetings as well. But it depends on what happens at item 13B is what, you know, I'll be able to say more on then. But I'm not going to waste my time now if we don't get past 13B. 57, the LWMTS business plan there, and the last penultimate paragraph on that page 15, it was confirmed that every meeting of the LWMTS board was minuted, and Mr. Fletcher agreed to share those minutes with members. And there is, I understand, a board meeting later this month, and the chief executive intends to ask for those minutes to be circulated to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee members. So that's just an update. 58, Council Community Fund update.
Could I interrupt you again? I know you don't like being interrupted, but Councillor Trent would like to ask a question.
Thank you, Chair. It was it was on 57. The chief executive there referred to obtaining legal advice regarding LWMTS board membership. It was just to ask whether legal advice has been received yet.
As the question is addressed to me, because I'm giving these minutes, I can say I've not received any such response, but I'm happy to follow it up. Whatever happens at item 13B. That's it. 58. Active work programme. Thank you, Chair. Work programme. Thank you, Chair.
Can we take the minutes as received? It's been correct and adopted. All in favour? I think that's unanimous. Item 9, minutes of the Planning Committee. And can I call on Councillor Harvey Coggins, who nearly finished up as Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. I move that the proceedings of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 23rd of April 2025 be received and, where necessary, approved and adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you. You know,
page 19, just read that.
Which bit?
Take the minute. When you go through the minutes, it's just there's only a single page each time. So just say, is anyone any comments on page 19?
It's a steep learning curve when you sit here for the first time. So together we'll make it, I hope. So Can we take the minutes in by page number? Only one page, which is page 18 and page 19. So is everybody in favour? Unanimous. Item 10, minutes of the Audit Committee. Can I call on Councillor Paul Taylor?
Thank you, Chair, and I welcome you to your new position. I move that the proceedings of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 23rd of April 2025 be received and, where necessary, approved and adopted.
Just go through them. Can I ask for a seconder? Councillor Woodward, thank you. And can I take the minutes in order, page, just by numbers?
55.
Number 55. 56. 57. 58. 59. 60.
Mr. Trent.
Councillor Trent.
Thank you, Chair. On 60, we were told that only cyber and community safety received limited assurance, while others received reasonable or substantial assurance. And then over the page, it says that cyber, due to the rapidly evolving nature of cybersecurity, most organisations rarely achieve substantial assurance. I just had a question, given in recent times there's been cyber attacks on a number of national organisations, more details coming up today about M&S cyber attack. I just wanted to ask the Chair of Audit how reassured the committee was regarding that risk factor. Thank you.
Chair, yeah, I mean, as reassured as we can be under the situation. The reason for the rating is those exact circumstances. We live in a world where organisations such as district councils are a target, and therefore it is a particularly high risk, and we note it as a particularly high risk, and therefore it gets the attention it hopefully, well, it deserves, and hopefully we avoid any issues. But you know, that is the reason why it's up as a substantial.
Moving on, number 61, 62, 63. Sorry, who is it? Oh, Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Chair. Unlike scrutiny, these do have to be approved and adopted, these minutes. And just to say on the fourth paragraph down, there's a reference there to open scrutiny, and it was agreed that the statements be revised to reflect this, which I'm supportive of. Just to say that with regard to those urgent items, which the Chair of Open Scrutiny has a chance to call in, but they've only had one this year, as I understand it from my records. And that was one where nobody would be able to get access to their computers if I'd have said call it in. So that was a bit of an awkward one there. But I did ask at the time, you know, and I would like to be assured that these things can be avoided where possible. But certainly I agree with what the audit committee has suggested. And then in the second paragraph, with reference there again to open scrutiny, which is the meeting that the Youth Council report will go to is July. We have a meeting in June. But I understand that the leadership team are not meeting this month. They will need to look at it first before it comes to Open Scrutiny. Then the Open Scrutiny Committee can have their views made to Cabinet. So it will be, just to confirm, that will be in July rather than what I would hope for in June at the meeting there. So there's no questions. Well, you can answer. There's no questions there. Just wanted to give that information. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, oh yeah. Can I welcome you to your seat? This is what I didn't do before. So welcome, Chair.
64. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair, and I thank Councillor Norman for the additional information. And if memory serves me right, the point about overviewing scrutiny was raised by a committee member who I'm sure has heard at length on how overview and scrutiny operates on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
I think we move on to 64 now. 65. So I can take the minutes as being correct. Everybody in favour?
Received and adopted.
I have to work out where we're up to.
Agenda item 11.
Sorry?
Agenda item 11.
Right on the 12.
So 12, isn't it?
So we move on to item number 12, membership of cabinet committees, panels and other appointments. Oh, right.
To Councillor Taylor. Yeah, we're on 11, report for the chair of audit committee. And then you call it Councillor Taylor to your office.
Can I ask for a report from the chair of the audit committee, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is my moment to shine. I put on a whole outfit. I'd have been gutted to miss it. As Chair of the Audit Committee, I'm pleased to present our annual report for 2024-25. The Audit Committee performs a vital but possibly unglamorous role in the Council's governance. We receive and interrogate reports so that members can know the decisions they make and the running of the Council is done correctly. As such, it was suggested I glam up the presentation of this report. So here I am in my best attire. I foolishly suggested I might do it wearing a sparkly hot pants, and I'll let you decide for yourselves whether I followed through on that. Throughout the year, we've diligently scrutinised reports from internal audit, our external auditors, ASETs and council officers to ensure proper financial management, risk controls and governance arrangements are in place. The report demonstrates how we've provided independent assurance on these matters. I'm happy to report that we've found no significant areas of concern which should give members confidence in the council's operations. We've improved our working practices, particularly in following up on audit recommendations, and we hope to enhance our effectiveness further by recruiting independent members in the coming year. I submit this report to council and would be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Whitehouse.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a question, please. Thank you. Just a question, please, for you, Councillor Taylor. I remember being on the audit committee about 12, 18 months ago, and the position of independent people was talked about then as an urgent need. I just wondered what sort of progress has been made last year, because I see that we're looking to fulfil this in the year ahead. I just wondered if you could clarify that point for me, please.
Councillor Woodward.
Can I comment, Chair, before the Chair of Audit responds? And can I also welcome you very belatedly to your new role? I think there's been a huge amount of progress this year, and it's not just me saying that, it's all of the members who attend regularly, who agree that there's been massive progress during the year. Unfortunately, as outlined in the statement, some members have not turned up to meetings and are sort of trying to absolve themselves of responsibilities, but actually they are as responsible for audit reports, whether they get to vote on them or comment on them or not. And it's a great pity, really, that that's been the case. A group of about 4 or 5 members, including yourself, Chair, have been carrying the audit committee along. And before we go into the new audit committee, let's all hope that members are far more conscientious in the way that they operate with audit committee. The audit committee reports are, of course, available to every member. And so perhaps Councillor Whitehouse can refer back and look at the audit reports and see exactly what progress has been made. And I congratulate Councillor Taylor for his work on advancing the work of the audit committee generally. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Chair. Before Councillor Taylor takes to his feet and effectively closes this debate, I wanted to offer from my portfolio a vote of thanks. I take the view, and have done, and will tell anyone who'll listen, that audit is in fact the senior committee on this council. And although it's described as unglamorous, it's also the entire council subject to a forensic examination with absolutely nothing hidden. And so I very much take the view that audit is really the glamour committee here. I have heard it said by members on this side of the chamber that Councillor Taylor was the first chair of audit to actually understand it. And I think there's some truth in that. He's certainly the first chair who to visibly enjoy it. And he seems to have committed himself to his service with great diligence. I can't speak to the relationship that he has with officers because I don't know it, nor is it proper that I should. But he certainly appeared from the outside and from the finance portfolio to get on very well with our officers, and that has really shown in terms of how he's effectively plotted a course through the audit timetable and kept us very honest where we've needed to be. And so before he speaks in response and answers the questions that he's rightly been asked, I'd like to thank him for his service throughout the previous year, and certainly my portfolio could not have continued as well as it has done without his diligent assistance. And so on behalf of myself and my officers, I'd like to thank Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm minded to comment. Oh, stop it, you'll make me blush. Just to answer the point on independent members, we did go through a recruitment process as an unremunerated role, and we got no applicants. We are going back out to recruit with a small remuneration, which we unfortunately couldn't do until the remuneration is agreed, as recommended by the independent remuneration panel later in this meeting. So we do hope to have a more successful recruitment process. We are looking ideally for 2 members, but hopefully at least 1. So that should start shortly after, or assuming we agree the independent remuneration panel's recommendations later in this meeting. Thank you.
12.
It's just the noting, so yeah, the report's noted, so we can move on.
Right. The report is noted, and we can move on to item number 12, which is membership of cabinet committees, panels and other appointments. Can I call on the leader of the council, Councillor Pullen?
Certainly can, Chair. This item is to agree the political allocation of seats on committees and panels as distributed, to receive the list of appointments to cabinet committees and panels as the paper has been circulated, I believe, in writing to everybody, and then also to agree that the constitution be amended to reflect any changes made therein. I so move, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Woodward.
Chair, I'll formally second.
Councillor Norman.
Thank you. I just wanted confirmation that the cabinet member for visitor economy, ecology and climate change, that will still be the Councillor Sylvester Hall's remit, climate change and ecology included with the visitor economy. That's not changing, is it? To ask the leader on that one, please.
I always have to second guess then and think, yeah, that is the case, Councillor Norman, that is remaining exactly the same.
I asked for, sorry. Nobody else wanted to comment. So can I ask for all those in favour, raise their hands. Anybody against? Any abstentions? So that is carried. If we move on to item 13, is election of chairs and appointment of vice chairs of committees and panels. Can I call on the leader of the council again, Councillor Pullen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is the item to nominate chairs and vice chairs for the committees, and I'll go through them committee by committee. For Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Waley Ho as Chair and Councillor Leona Lung as Vice Chair. For the Audit Committee, Councillor Joe Powell as Chair and Councillor Mark Warfield as Vice Chair. For Member Standards Committee, Councillor David Salter as Chair and Councillor Sonia Wilcox as Vice Chair. For Planning Committee, Councillor Checkland as Chair and Councillor Derek Cross as Vice Chair. For Regulatory and Licensing Committee, Councillor Brian Yates as Chair and Councillor Serena Mears as Vice Chair. Employment Committee, Sonia Wilcox as Chair and Joe Powell as Vice Chair. And that concludes the nominations, Chair. Thank you.
Can I ask for somebody to second? Thank you, Councillor Salter. Thank you. We have a vote.
Right, the copy, so once everybody's had a chance to receive.
Yes. Just hang on a second, will it? Councillor Woodward.
Chair, I'd like to propose an amendment to the list that's been circulated on behalf of Councillor Pullen.
Right, go ahead.
I've also circulated a list of proposed amendments, and that includes the current chairs and vice chairs of committees. They've been in place for just 12 months, and I think they've acquitted themselves very well, as we've heard the comments in relation to Councillor Taylor. And I'll ask that this is given due consideration, and I think my deputy will second.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
So do we have to go through each one then?
Yeah, because it's moved on, so we've got an amendment, so we'll take a vote on the amendment. Oh, Councillor Ashton wants to come up.
Councillor Ashton.
As we're all well aware, the planning committee is apolitical. We leave our rosettes outside the door. Councillor Harvey Coggins, having attended an LGA course for planning committee.
Well, we're going to have to go through these one by one.
Which has fostered the sense of collegiality.
I would take a vote on the.
And using the lessons we've learned.
vote on the proposal, yeah.
We now have a committee where all members express their views, irrespective of the affiliation. Her handling of some controversial and potentially stormy meetings has been exemplary, leaving one officer to describe her as the best planning committee chair with whom I have worked. She has developed an excellent relationship with the planning government.
The amendments for.
Allowing me to conduct
They will amend for, so we'll take the vote on Councillor Holland's original motion.
the importance of integration cannot
So we'll take a vote on.
And Bill Collins the report.
to replace Councillor Harvey Coggins would be to waste her training, her enthusiasm, and the passion she brings to the post. The experience she's gained in the role, the valuable personal relationships she's developed. At a time when planning procedures nationally are in a state of flux, replacing the planning chair would be a change of course into midstream. An action which would do harm. Equity. And we share a common passion for many aspects of planning. Though I may not speak as much as some in the meetings themselves, I do make contributions to the pre-meeting discussions, and these often result in improvements to the officers' presentations. And like the chair, I enjoy good relations with the officers. I see Councillor Harvey Coggins and myself as a team, which would be foolish to discard on a whim
or for purely political reasons. To use planning terminology, you may now be predisposed, but I would urge you to think again and avoid being predetermined with regard to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Booker here. Yes, that's Councillor Woodruff. Can I just back up what's just been said there? One of the key things we do here is represent our residents. And I want this to be about representing the residents and not about party politics. The planning committee is one of the biggest things that comes up in our residents all the time. All the houses that are being built, they ask us to represent them here, and to go and vote on a political whim, to put people in on politics and not about what our residents want, will speak volumes to our residents. So vote as you please, but the residents are watching.
Chair, I just want to echo what Councillor Booker just said, and also urge all councillors to vote for Councillor Taylor as the existing chair of audit committees. He's carried out that role admirably, as Councillor Strachan and others have said, and I think it would be wrong to replace him at this important point. Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And may I also welcome you to your position. Can I just set a bit of reality to the room? Didn't this happen last year, where you took the chairs off some of our Conservative members? I don't know why you're talking about politics now when that happened 12 months ago. I think the chairs we put forward are perfectly good chairs. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I ask on a point of order, please? Councillor Pullens moved his list and I've moved my list as an amendment. But would it be possible to go through each committee and vote on the chairs, vice chairs separately, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make the point that when the elections happened 2 years ago, and we were so close, we agreed to collegiate working. That has gone well over the last 2 years. We've shown we can work together and the chairs have been shared. The only thing I can see now is our new councillor has empowered the Tories to take over everything again.
Chairman, I'm firmly of the view that collegiate working will continue. What happened, and Councillor Farrell has already indicated, what happened 12 months ago, one could say that was not collegiate working, but we have accepted it. We came to this council with a different set of proposals. It doesn't change, in my opinion, the collegiate working of council that was stated in 2023. So it's all very well, but this is still on the card. The collegiate working will still work. And I don't believe that in any way that this is an attempt to say it won't.
Yeah, just for clarity, does that mean that opposition scrutiny chair, vice chair will be from the opposition then, as it was last year, year before? Tell me that.
Councillor Cox suggested that we would continue with collegiate working. Can I just point out that the proposals they've made has no collegiacy in those chairs, whereas the proposals we made last year had Councillor Long, Councillor Yates, Councillor Marshall and Councillor Wilcox as vice chairs of the committee for proper collegiate cross-party working, including Councillor Ashton and Councillor John Hill, sorry. So it wasn't a single party proposal, and our current proposal isn't a single party proposal.
Councillor Wans.
Cheers, thank you. I'd like to extend my welcome for you as a chair leader as well. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one for the people on planning committee, for the chair and vice chair. I'd like to express that I hope common sense is applied when you're in these positions, not just to throw houses in any place, but also to provide the infrastructure to go with the housing plans as well. Thank you.
We'll go through item by item, and the vote will be voting for the proposed amendment. So all those in favour of this is for planning, all those in favour of the proposed amendment for the planning committee. And can I now ask for all those in favour of the original planning committee list? Oh, so, right. Right. I stand corrected. All those against that motion, the amendment. Any abstentions? So the original list.
The amendment is defeated.
Oh, the amendment is defeated. 21 for and 22 against. So if we turn to the Regulatory and Licensing Committee, all those in favour of the proposed amendment? Yes. All those against the amendment? Any abstentions? So the amendment has not been carried. 21, 22 and 1 abstention. The Audit Committee, all those in favour of the proposed amendment? All those against the amendment? (22). So the amendment has been abstentions. Okay. So 21 for the amendment, 22 against and 1 abstention. So the amendment is defeated. Members' Standards Committee, all those in favour of the amendment? All those against the amendment? Any abstentions? So the amendment has been defeated, 21 for, 22 against and 1 abstention. The Employment Committee, all those in favour of the amendment? All those against the amendment? Any abstentions? The amendment is defeated.
That's it. We don't need to vote for those because those are done at the meetings.
Right. 21 for, 22 against, 1 abstention.
Amendments fallen, but we have to vote for the proposal.
We
have to vote for the original proposal because the amendments fallen, so then we have to confirm the one the leader submitted in the first place. So we take one more vote.
For Pullens.
Yeah.
So we now have to vote for the original proposal. So all those in favour, sorry, Councillor Woodward.
Again, for clarification, no, I think Councillor Pullen has moved Councillor Ho as the chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee, but we haven't been able to discuss the chair and vice chairmanship as yet. And shouldn't it be a separate motion under 13B?
We'll come to after we're voting on the other chairs and vice chairs, then we have a separate election.
Yeah, we'll come to that afterwards if we can do. And yes, so can we vote all those in favour of the original motion?
Can I ask what the original motion was? Because I've got it written down here, but I don't believe it. So could you help me, for you, Chair?
It's as circulated.
Can I say as circulated? So we start again then. Yeah, all those in favour of the motion? All those against? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. So the motion is carried. Oh, I'm getting confused where it's in.
Chairs and vice chairs now. One that remains, and we need to elect the scrutiny chair. So we need to ask nominations for the chair of Overview and Scrutiny.
Right, so I now have to ask for a nomination for a chair of Overview and sorry, were you responding before I asked, or did you want?
No,
Oh,
Chair, I was just indicating that I want to
the chair of
nominate the chair of OS.
Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Steve Norman as the chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee. He spends many a long hour doing detailed research on all of the reports that come to us, and I don't think anyone could doubt that. He's also been very fair, scrupulously fair, to the point that I've disagreed with him in the car on the way home, that he should have allowed my view to carry. But he is scrupulously fair, and no favours. And I hope that members will support that proposal. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward. Does anybody second that nomination? Councillor Ball.
Yes, Chair, I do want to second that and urge all members across the chamber to consider that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is an impartial, non-political body, and the current chair has performed that role well and should be maintained in his role. We certainly simply giving it to someone else in the controlling group calls into question the independence and propriety that that role will be carried out properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Whaley Ho as Chair for Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I entirely agree with my colleagues from across the chamber that it is an impartial, apolitical role, one which I have no doubt that Councillor Whaley would be able to fulfil in its fullness. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anybody to second that motion proposal?
Chair, I so second.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to put a question to one of the nominated parties. I'd like to ask Councillor Ho, as the outgoing chair of Audit Committee, Councillor Ho's personal situation did not allow him to attend a single meeting over the last 12 months. Highly relevant as to how Councillor Ho is going to fit in time to do all of the duties of the chair of Overview and Scrutiny.
Well, I would think it would be up to the individual councillors to decide. So, Councillor Hughes.
Yes, I had a slightly different version of Councillor Ball's intervention, which I went to some overview and scrutiny training, which was done by, I think, a former chair of a former leader of Dover Council, who was a member of the Conservative Party. And I understood that it was good practice in a council, particularly in a council with no overall control, to have a chair of overview and scrutiny who was not from the party in charge. So I have no objection to, I know nothing at all about the people nominated. And I was very cross in 2023 when we didn't try to take control, and we'd basically fought an election to make Councillor Norman chair of overview and scrutiny, which included us very well. It just seems to be utterly against the best practice of any district council. Even if, we weren't losing the votes by 1, if we were losing the votes by 7, seems to be a decent, confident council would have a chair of overview and scrutiny who was not from the party in charge.
Well, we have to take a vote on this, and I think it is up to the councillors to decide one way or another, having listened to the. Sorry?
Call for a named vote on this one, please.
Yes.
Executive will take us through the named vote.
Yes, yeah.
Chief Executive ready, Chair, to take on the vote. Just announce the Chief Executive will take it. So we're going around.
Point of order, Chair. I think the Leader of the Opposition will need 5 supporters to move that named vote. I think on this particular item, she will need 5 members to support that. Yep.
So Chief Executive to take the named vote.
Can I hand over to our Chief Executive to take the named vote?
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask members please to confirm if you are for, against or abstain when I call your name?
Yes.
Okay, the chair has now confirmed we are voting for councillor. Sorry, we are voting for the position of. Sorry, I'm completely lost now, Chair. Councillor, yeah. So can I ask councillors to confirm if you are for, against, or abstain the election of Councillor Ho as the chair of the committee? Okay, brace yourselves. Right. Councillor Ashton. Councillor Ball. Councillor Beneficius. Councillor Bennion. Councillor Booker. Councillor Braga. Councillor Checkland. Councillor Coe. Councillor Cox. Councillor Cross. Councillor D. Ennis. Councillor L. Ennis. Councillor Evans. Councillor Farrell. Councillor Galvin. Councillor Harvey Coggins. Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Henshaw. Councillor Hill. Councillor Ho. Councillor Holland. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Leung. Councillor Marshall. Councillor Mears. Councillor Norman. Councillor Powell. Councillor Pullen. Councillor Rushton. Councillor Salter. Councillor Sylvester Hall. Councillor A. Smith. Councillor J. Smith. Councillor Strachan. Councillor P. Taylor. Councillor S. Taylor. Councillor Trent. Councillor Vernon. Councillor Warfield. Councillor Whitehouse. Councillor S. Wilcox. Councillor Wallens. Councillor Woodward. Yates. Thank you.
Right.
So, Councillor. If they do the same, only for Councillor Norman then.
So what happened?
I'm just waiting for the total. They're just opening up the votes. Yeah, so we have 21 votes in favour of Councillor Ho.
How many
And
finished?
so now we need to do for Councillor Norman, really, if it's a no vote. We need to repeat it for Councillor Norman.
So we need to repeat the vote now for Councillor Norman.
Okay, thank you, Chair. As the Chair said, if you could cast your votes for, against or abstain in favour of Councillor Norman as Chair of the ONS Committee. Councillor Ashton. Councillor Ball. Councillor Beneficius. Councillor Bennion. Councillor Booker. Councillor Braga. Councillor Checkland. Councillor Coe. Councillor Cox. Councillor Cross. Councillor D. Ennis. Councillor L. Ennis. Councillor Evans. Councillor Farrell. Councillor Galvin. Councillor Harvey Coggins. Councillor Hawkins. Sorry, could you say that again? Thank you. Councillor Henshaw. Councillor Hill. Councillor Ho. Councillor Holland. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Leung. Councillor Marshall.
Again.
Councillor Mears. Councillor Norman. Councillor Powell. Councillor Pullen.
Against.
Councillor Rushton. Councillor Salter. Councillor Sylvester Hall. Councillor A. Smith.
Again.
Councillor J. Smith. Councillor J. Smith, I'll ask you one more time. Sorry? Councillor Strachan. Councillor P. Taylor. Councillor S. Taylor. Councillor Trent. Councillor Vernon.
Against.
Councillor Warfield. Councillor Whitehouse. Councillor S. Wilcox. Councillor Wallens, Councillor Woodward, and Councillor Yates. Thank you.
Very close. Funny life, so I was on the chairs. Well, because it's 21 each way. And you only representation. Yeah, you're possibly those. You don't have to do it. Whatever you made it is a right. That's a valid point. You made a valid point.
So Councillor Norman is elected by 23 votes for 21.
Councillor Norman is elected by 23 votes for 21. Congratulations, Councillor Norman.
A few words, Chair.
Yes.
I don't
So
hold
long as
against
it's a
anybody who
few.
voted against me.
So long as it's
or
a
indeed
few
voted
words.
for Councillor Ho. I just want to say that, you know, been doing this for a number of years. Went down to London to see a select committee in the very early days. Was chair of a committee, education committee at the county council. Was the West Midlands lead on overview and scrutiny for a number of years, and been involved in training around the country as well in the past. So I did want to carry on, but I do think it's of great value to this district council and to all councils. I'd just like to mention North Warwickshire once. They're rubbish. They haven't got a scrutiny committee. They have a different system there, but we have the strong leader model here, and that means we have overview and scrutiny. And I hope everybody understands that I will always listen to what they've got to say. I always want to try and find ways for them to ask their questions, as they used to at the county when you used to have 250 odd pages. I will always read those, and I'm very grateful for the support that the majority clearly have given me, especially from those who perhaps, yeah, anyway, from the other side. So thank you for that, and I'm still here, and I will still be able to help you as best I can, and hold the be the scrutiny. What's it? The scrutiny friend of the cabinet. So I'm not nasty to them. I was looking forward, by the way, and not being the scrutiny chair as the time went on, because I can be very nasty in the council chamber. I've had to stop that for the last 2 years. I think it's affected my heart, but I'm going to keep on like that, and hopefully for the best of the council. Because the important thing now is we're going to be abolished, right? We need to make sure that we can get the best we can for the people living in the area of Lichfield District now for the future of the next local authorities that's going to come along. So hopefully I can work with everybody on that. So thank you, Chair. Thanks for letting me to do that.
And we move on to agenda item number 14, appointment of representatives on outside bodies. And could I call upon Doug Pullen, Councillor Doug Pullen again?
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully we won't take the vote on these line by line, but I so move the appointments of representatives on outside bodies as distributed. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Woodward.
Chair, I'd like to propose several amendments, and I don't know whether you want to take them separately as per the chair's and vice chair's vote, or whether you want me to move them en bloc.
So has everybody got the amendments?
Chair, if it helps, there are copies, I think, for all members to see the nomination. No, there aren't. There aren't. I'd still like to propose some amendments if I might, Chair.
Yes, but we're just deciding if everybody's got the amendments.
Okay, in order as they stand on the chart that was circulated, I think by email to all members, but whether members can find them now on their emails, that's a moot point. For the Lichfield District Tourism Association Executive Committee, can I propose Councillor Anne Hughes? For the Staffordshire County Council Health Select Committee, can I propose Councillor Steve Norman? The arrangements that he and Councillor Young have had over the past 12 months seem to have worked very effectively. Can I propose Councillor Paul Taylor for the Staffordshire Police and Crime Panel? I'd like to propose Councillor Sharon Taylor for the Corporate Parenting Panel. And I'd like to propose Councillor Claire Booker for the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust.
Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a point, looking back at last year's vote, the nominations didn't appear in the minutes, sorry, in the agenda, because that was a sheet that followed later. And then the vote, the appointees that were voted in didn't appear in the minutes because the minutes referred to the sheet that was passed round. So can I ask that when we do the minutes for this meeting, the full set of nominations are recorded in the minutes so that we have a record for posterity? Thank you.
Councillor Ball.
Yes, Chair. Very belatedly welcome you to your role as Chair. And also happy to second the amendments that Councillor Woodward has proposed.
Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Chair. In the nice collegiate way I do work as overview and scrutiny member, I did email officers to say that the Staffordshire County Council Health Select Committee doesn't exist. They've been abolished 2 years ago at least, and that pompous name Select Committee. There is the Healthcare and Overview Scrutiny Committee, and the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny attend that. Although for my first year, Councillor Young as Vice Chair, I'd invited to attend, and but it is actually that's incorrect. So it's the Healthcare and Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and it's the Chair of this Scrutiny Committee that actually attends those meetings. Thank you.
That's correct.
So what do we do now?
So we need to vote on that. It's an amendment.
So what we have to do is take a vote on Councillor Woodward's amendment. And all those in favour of Councillor Woodward's amendment. All those against the amendment. Any abstentions? The amendment falls. Yes.
Role as substitute for Staffordshire Police Fire and Crime Panel. If the Conservative group can't find somebody to put their name forward for that, I would gladly volunteer.
Councillor Pullen.
In the spirit of collegiate working, Paul Taylor, I'll be more than happy to second that.
Right. So we need to take a vote.
Sorry, Chair, a point was just raised by Councillor Booker about the representation on University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. I think this is slightly more complex than just us nominating somebody, because of course it's in tandem with Tamworth, who have currently got Councillor Carol Dean as a representative. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm honest, that there's an adequate mechanism to determine who the representative is. I know we've been told that Councillor Carol Dean, as the Labour Party rep from Tamworth, is going to continue. I'm not entirely sure it's actually properly articulated how that decision is made. I'd be more than happy to have somebody from Lichfield District Council represent us on that board, but my understanding is that it currently doesn't sit with us to make that nomination. I'm trying to be helpful by sharing information there rather than preventing anything from happening. I'd be more than happy from someone from LDC to represent us.
Thank you, Councillor. We need to take a vote on the original substantive motion. So all those in favour of the original motion? Yes, with Councillor Taylor's amendment.
Okay. All those against?
All those against? Are there any abstentions? Councillor Pullen.
Chair, I'm just wondering how we deal with the point about the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. I wouldn't want us to miss out on a representative there if we've got the opportunity to do so. I say it's just my understanding at the moment we don't. I don't know if we can nominate a representative with a caveat that it needs further investigation, but I wouldn't want us to leave this meeting with anyone feeling that we haven't taken that opportunity.
Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chair. I'd agree with Councillor Pullen, but we've just taken a vote on those representatives for outside bodies. So I think this is something that's got to be followed up after the meeting and possibly come back to the next full council meeting.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Woodward. The vote had been taken. Councillor Cox.
Just for information, Councillor, it is point of information. Okay.
Order.
I'm quite happy to sit down if that's the will, but I want, there are a few other names, like Councillor Norman has just stated, that we as a council need to correct as titles. And that is like, for example, Cannock Chase NOB is now Cannock Chase Local Landscape.
Who's that up there? Who's that with a mask on over?
Councillor Benny.
Councillor Benny. We couldn't really hear that, Councillor Benyon. Oh, thank you.
I think they've got it now, haven't you? Yes.
So, which is yes, yes.
Course of the independent remuneration.
I thought right. We're moving on to item 15 is the report of the independent remuneration panel. And again, I call on Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. My views on the IRP are well known, well documented. This has been in and out like the hokey cokey, I think. However, this is a independent panel that has come to us with a recommendation, and the proposal in front of us this evening is to consider the report and the recommendations of that independent remuneration panel, setting our allowances for the ensuing years. And I so move.
Any questions for this council?
Thank you, Chair. I so second the recommendation.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to vote against the amendment, the recommendation, because I think if you actually appoint an independent body, you should actually take note of what they say. But I was somewhat surprised, given the discussions that I had with the leader last year and the interview I had with the panel, that they left the standards committee figure so high. I got the distinct impression when I came out that it would be cut drastically, but in fact it was only reduced by a small amount. But as I say, I'm not going to vote against it. That's just a comment, really.
Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to place on record that I particularly welcome the recommendations regarding carers allowances and parental leave, which are set out at paragraphs 187 to 193 of the report. They're also referenced in the key observations, paragraphs 15 and 21. I was particularly struck by paragraph 15, where it says that this current situation could be a potential barrier for others, particularly the underrepresented groups such as younger people and or those in full-time employment. As such, the current levels were a potential barrier to wider representation on the council. And then at paragraph 21, it says, if the current situation were maintained, it risks returning to an era where being a councillor was restricted to those who could afford it or were willing to live in straitened circumstances for the sake of public service. Chair, thanks for your tolerance while I read that out, but I think those are really important points and I particularly welcome those. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cross.
Chair, I welcome these recommendations by the independent panel. I have fought and argued for the last 6 years for this to go to an independent panel to relook at it for us. And I'm very pleased to see that we've now got it in front of us and we should approve it and move on.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to draw members' attention to a particular item within the IRP report, which is about shadow cabinet member allowances, which is, of course, one of the key drivers for returning to the IRP to ensure that in a council which actually now has a formal shadow cabinet, that those shadow cabinet positions are properly remunerated, something which had cross-party political consensus ahead of the IRP's recommendations. I fully welcome that. It's really important for us to have that shadow cabinet remuneration in place. And I think that all members, when we're about to vote on this, should remember precisely why this IRP was undertaken and what it is doing across this chamber for members of all parties.
Can I just can I speak?
Yes. Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm just looking down the list.
Could I just pass the comment that Councillor Marshall is still struggling from the effects of his broken leg and that is perhaps why he is not standing?
I'm happy to stand.
Councillor Marshall says he is happy to stand.
I'm happy to stand, yes, I am. I just want to say that looking down the list of the 3 members of the IRP, I was once involved with this process about 4 years ago, and I was struck by just how involved a process this is, how many man hours go into it, and I think we only have to look at the report to realise that these 3 people have worked assiduously, and I think we should be, as a council, I'm sure we are, extremely grateful for their diligence and their determination to come to a conclusion. It's been a while since we've taken the advice of the IRP. I'm very glad that we've given them the recognition that they deserve in so receiving their report. Thank you very much.
We come to the final agenda item. Oh, Yes, so, see, I'm in a rush to go upstairs for my cup of tea. So we have to vote in favour or against or abstain. So all those in favour? All those in favour of the motion? All those against? Any abstentions? So the recommendation is carried. And now we can move on to the final agenda item, which is questions. And I'm pleased to report there are no questions. So that brings our live broadcast to an end.